Glenda.
Welcome to Sunday nights at 9 with Reset to Healthier Relationships, Open Discussion. Tonight's topic is another hot one. I think Mr. Carpenter has been on a roll for the past couple of weeks with these topics. We have had some amazing topics and some real life experiences and stories that have been brought out on our Sunday night at 9 live open discussion, and we're just going to keep the ball rolling. I am your host, Coach Glenda, here with Mr. Carpenter. I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you a little bit about himself.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Rufus Carpenter. I am the course manager here at Reset the Healthy Relationship, and I come into the space that's a little different than most. My background is a family of 14. We lived in one bathroom, 3-bedroom house. And if you know anything about that many kids in the house, one bathroom, and then you sleep with 4 of your siblings, you know a thing about the human connection. So with that, fast forward, I had lived 27 years. I was married to the same woman, and we had a relationship where we learned a thing about communication. We learned a thing about trust. We learned a thing about compromise. We learned a thing about empathy, and we really learned a lot about grace. And because of that, that helped us build an outstanding human relationship. And these things aren't necessary just for successful marriage, but these things are successful in any type of relationship, whether it's friendship or whatever it is, co-workers, whatever it is. These are the things that you need to do. And fast forward again, my biggest part of my background came from the United States Army. I was trained as an equal opportunity human race relation leader, where I had the responsibility of going in and investigating any relationship problem we had in the unit. And I was responsible for taking the first intake, which means I had to sort out who had the responsibility of fixing that opportunity within our unit. So my background is very diverse, and I'm here tonight with Glenda to tell you the male side of the story. The lady Glenda and Glenda and majority of our audience will handle the female side of the story. But when you get to the male side of the story, I got your back. All right, Glenda.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Carpenter. Tonight's topic is taking a risk to love, rooted in faith. Now, when I thought about the topic, I was like, wow, okay. It brought back a little bit, it brought back a few memories for myself, because when I thought about taking the risk to love, I think about when I first got married. My grandmother, she was, I believed everything she said. I thought my grandmother, she could tell me no wrong. And because of her age, she was all knowing, she was like my God in a sense, as a little child and as I grew up. She said, when I got pregnant with my first son, she said, well, you might as well go ahead and marry him because he's not going to let anyone else take care of you and that baby. So because my grandmother told me, no, God was in the equation, no, let's pray about this. None of that was in the equation. I went off of what she said and took a chance. I took a huge risk. And even though I loved him at the time, and I was in love with him at the time, and it wasn't so much about because we had a child together, because we had dated for, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 1.5 to 2 years before the baby came about. But I ended up getting married because of what she said, and it ended up being the worst move in my whole entire life. It was like one disaster after the other. It was a huge experience, and I learned a lot from it, but I do regret getting married because I felt as if I married the wrong person for the wrong reason. And that is my example of taking a risk to love rooted in faith. Now, I had faith enough in my grandmother to think that she wouldn't steer me wrong, which she did. She denied it up until the day she died. But she said, I didn't tell you to marry him. I said, yes, you did. But long story short, as you know from the beginning of a couple of the other segments that we've had with Reset to Healthier Relationships, I told you it was almost an 8-year marriage that ended, in a divorce, from a divorcee to a single mom of 2, and I moved from Virginia to Georgia. So it was a disaster. However, I still believed in love even after getting, going through what I went through and even getting a divorce. So the question I want to ask you ladies, or the participants here tonight, because I see I have Wayne here, he's going to cheer me on and help me out tonight along with Mr. Carpenter. I want to ask you ladies something. Have you ever taken a significant risk for love based on your faith or belief? And what was the outcome? You can raise your electronic hand. You can take yourself off mute and just respond however you feel fit. Okay, someone is raising their hand.
That's Mildred.
Mildred.
Go ahead, girl.
Okay, yes, I believed because he was in church, I had faith that he was going to be okay, this was going to be fine, but I thought that I could help him change, because I figured like, well, he needed some growing up. He needed this. He got to realize that everybody is not out to get him, this, that, and the other. And my mother told me, well, if he treating you like that and he's not even married to you, don't look for it to get any better. If anything, look for it to get worse. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't want you to come home and be around family now, he's definitely not going to let you come later. But I thought it would, because I said, well, I'm not going to have to worry about that because he can come around family. He can this and he can that. But guess what? He was abusive in every sense of the word, emotionally, physically, spiritually, you name it. So no, I thought because he was in church, he was going to be a good one. But no, that wasn't the case. I tried it. I left and went back, or allowed him to leave and went back. But it finally wound up that we did get a divorce, and he remarried and had a heart attack. But that one was willing to allow him to die. To make a long story short, yes, I have tried. But my thought is, just like when we saying doing it in faith, we know that faith is that we don't already have what we're expecting, but we hope to get it, or we looking for it to happen. So, and I still don't think just because that one didn't work right, that doesn't mean that I shouldn't have faith. But now I pray about it. At that time, I knew of God, but I didn't know we could ask him all kinds of questions for all areas of your life. So, but yeah, I did think that I was doing the right thing, using my faith that things were going to work out.
Right. Well, that's a good example. That is a very good example. I know Wayne had asked me to repeat the question. I put it in the chat, Wayne, but the question was, have you ever taken a significant risk for love based on your faith or belief? What was the outcome? Do you have something you want to share, Mr. Parker?
Yes, I can tell you. I took a leap out on faith once, and guess what? I was married for 27 years. So I think my prayers were answered.
All
Next.
Right. Good.
Moving right along. Okay. Did someone else want to share a story? I'm about to block you.
Go ahead, Angela. We're listening to you up next. Angela, we can't hear you, Angela. We can't hear you. Turn your mic up a little bit. All right, now try now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you on.
Okay. Well, my situation was similar to Mildred's. However, and I remain, after divorce and all, I just remain single and absent or whatever. But then one day I say, just having a conversation with God, he said, well, you know what? If you're never vulnerable again, it'll never take place again. Right. So I didn't believe that because it didn't work the first time, that it would never work. But he left it up to me. He says, it's up to you. You have to be vulnerable. You've been through it one time. Take what you learned from that one. Assess the situation. You're not in a hurry. And if you see red signs or flags or whatever, run like forward.
That's right. You're right about that. Yes, you have to pay close attention to those red flags. Now, I think based off of the two experiences that we heard from the audience, trusting and love despite uncertainties, I think those were very good examples. What do you think, Mr. Carpenter?
I think they were great examples because when you trust and love is like a football. You see when they throw the football and hit the ground, everybody try to catch try to catch it, and it fumbles every which way. Love is the same exact way. You don't know which way love gonna turn sometime. You can think one thing and do all the right stuff and all the right steps, and the love just flip the other way on you. So you've got to be prepared and ready.
That is absolutely true. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is believing in the power of love. And I think based off of what Angela just stated, she had stated that even though it didn't work out with the first marriage or the first relationship that she was referring to, it didn't, she didn't, eliminate any future relationships going forward. Because I know it didn't for me based off of my past experience. I haven't been married a second time because now that I know better, I have to do better. But right. I do believe that true love, genuine love, it does exist. And I know that it's going to take a certain type of man to be able to handle and deal with me, because I'm not going to say I come with a lot of baggage, but I do come with a lot of, I pack a big punch. I would say, watch it. Don't you I can see you, right? I pack a big punch. I pack a big punch, because my expectation is high because of everything I've been through from the marriage and the relationships thereafter. So when you think about when you think about believing in the power of love, love isn't just a feeling. Love is something that you put to action. Someone that constantly say that I love you, okay, but how you have to show me that you love me. It's an action. It is also shown. So with that being said, let's see, we have an illustration. After going through a difficult breakup, I would say John decides to open his heart again to start a new relationship with Maya. Despite his past hurt, John believes in the healing power of love, and he takes a risk to love Maya with faith in their relationship will bring joy and fulfillment. Now, what are your thoughts on that? So do you think that it sounds like John had went through a bad breakup, and now he's about to jump out, take a leap of faith and start a new relationship with Maya, and he's going all in with his feelings on his sleeve and everything. Now, what are your thoughts on that? Anybody experienced that after a bad and terrible relationship or marriage? Were you able to jump back into the game without holding anything from the past relationship, bringing in any old baggage?
It's so bad. Guys really know how to do this.
If you mute your phones unless you're speaking,
that's you. Okay, when Glenda said that, there's a term that I hear a lot in the relationship world now called jaded. I heard that a lot. When people come out of a bad situation or breakup or trauma, the word jaded comes up. And I always wonder what that meant. Anybody know what that means? Anybody know what jaded mean in a relationship? Can you help me out? Anybody want to share their answers to that?
Look at this deal. Look at this deal. Save even more. Get 10% off the purchase.
I'm gonna mute anything.
Okay, no problem.
Follow the fresh foundation file grateful coverage. Resist transfer. For up to 24-hour period. Travel for a short
television is on.
I muted her. She's muted. Okay. Be good. Okay. All right. Because a lot of times when you go through a relationship, when you go through a breakup in a relationship, and you go through it, you change. Something happens to you. A lot of people take a breakup as going back and they assess themselves and say, what did I do wrong? Since I was half of the equation, what do I need to look at myself? What did I do that I should have done differently, or what fault did I have in this breakup? And then they go ahead and fix or repair or do what needs to be done. And even if that includes going to see a professional, a counselor or a therapist, to get back on track. And then some other people say, hey, look, that so-and-so did me wrong, so I'm gonna dog out the next one. I'm gonna do it to them before they do it to me. And then they go into other relationships gonna hurt somebody. And that's what we call broken people or hurt people. So they hurt, so they're gonna hurt somebody else. They're gonna pass that hurt along. And that's not a good way to look at it. And then you got another set of people that go through trauma or go through a breakup, and then they just so withdrawing. And when they turn to they turn to somebody's kicking bag. They go in and let somebody poop all over them because they feel that they don't deserve anything. They're not that good enough. And that's why it fell, because of some shortfall in them. So it's what you take away from it. It's what you take away from the breakup. Go ahead, Glenda. You want to say?
Did you ever go over what the jaded meant?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I wanted somebody to discuss it since we're not.
Okay. Well, I saw that Andre said it was bitter, and I Googled it just in case. It says tired, bored, or lacking enthusiasm, typically after having had too much of something.
And that's too much of a dumb stuff in a relationship. That's what it's trying to tell you. And that's jaded. And then you get bitter, you get sad, you get withdrawn. And that's what people say, you recoil from your relationships. That's what they mean. And that sometimes that puts you in isolation. Sometimes it even give you sadness. And sometimes it puts you in depression. So these things that we're talking about are very important. And that's why we broke them down to different parts of relationships, and what love is, because when you step out on faith, you're hoping and you have expectation that you're going to meet that Mr. or Mrs. Right, and they're going to be all you need and all you're looking for. And they're going to bring something, they're going to make your life better. Because in the Bible, when two can do a lot more than one can. And it makes a major difference. When you have that other person across from you that's adding value to you and you adding value to them, and they esteem you as high as you esteem them, that's a beautiful thing. That is truly beautiful.
It really is.
When you're on a date with someone and you're talking to them, and when you're talking to them, you can almost see if they're truly representing who they are. If they're not doing what's called sending a representative, that means they're faking you out. They're trying to be somebody they're not. If they're not doing it and they're truly being themselves, your conversation with them in that date, whether it's a 20-minute date or whether it's a 3-minute date or whether it's a 5-hour date, if you ask the right question and do the right analysis of that conversation or that transition between you and them, you can tell whether or not their heart is open to you and your heart open to them. You can tell if it's going to be a connection. And that's what the night is all about. The night is getting you to understand that you have to realize you have to do the work. You have to do the work. You can't go in there, well, the next person I'm in front of, I'm just going to fall in love with them. Heck, if they meet half of my requirements, I'm in. That's not what this is all about.
No.
What this is all about is telling you, step out on faith, but still you got to realize you still got to do the homework. You got to have boundaries. And you gotta know what you're looking for. You gotta know what the perfect person for you kind of look like. Because if you don't know what you're looking for, you won't get anything.
Right.
I'm sorry, Glenda, I didn't mean to take over. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. But I did want to say that I remember that when I was going through my divorce, I remember my dad always telling me, Glenda, don't become bitter. Don't be bitter because of this, this one bad apple. And I was like, I held on to that, and I had hope that my relationships thereafter would get better. They wasn't all bad, but they wasn't all good either. They all had, it's just that the bad outweighed the good, but at the same time, I always left myself open to dating someone new when the opportunity presented itself. All right. Did anyone else want to comment on that segment? Believing in the power of love. Did you have any additional comments?
Andre, can you share your comment? You did it on the post. So that looked like something good. Can you share that live for me, please, if you don't mind, sir?
Sure. What I was saying, I think you had someone who just said something about knowing the perfect person for, I guess, for themselves. So I was thinking that maybe in order for you to know who's perfect for you, you have to know your own perfect self in a sense, since I believe that the partner might be a reflection of you and your decisions that you make.
Right.
And the reason why I wanted Andre to say that, because the way he said it, he made it so clear. Because if I'd have said it, I think I wouldn't have made it as clear as he made it. I'd have kind of muffed it up a little bit. And the reason why I say that, let's say you, okay, I think in our show we call women we call a powerful woman, we call a high value woman. So if you're a high value woman, and some people say alpha female, some people give it a shortcut, alpha female. And what are you looking for in way of a mate? Are you looking for an alpha male that's a dominant male? Are you looking for a more submissive male? So when you go to date, you've got to, what are you looking for? And that's what I'm talking about. What are you looking for? Are you looking for another alpha? So two alphas in the same household or two alphas in the same relationship? Or are you looking for somebody that's more docile or more submissive, that when you become an alpha, when you're the alpha female, now this person can let you lead somewhat? How does that dynamic sound to anybody? Because when Andre put that in there, I saw that in my mind. That came to me just like that.
It's nothing in between.
Glenda, when you look for a mate or somebody you date, do you look for a high value person like you, alpha female, or I mean an alpha male, or do you just how explain that to me so we can get some kind of idea?
Well, I was trying to ask you, is there something in the middle? Because I'm really not into no alpha male, because I dated one of those and it didn't work out fine. It didn't work out right. I mean, we weren't married, but we were dating, and he just thought that he was God. What he said was the law. I'm like, no. I'm like, my name is not Boo Boo the Fool. I don't know who you think you're talking to. I said, no, it didn't last long, but I don't think I could deal with that alpha male, because he was also ex-military. And I don't know what it is about military men. They're very aggressive in a way. Some of them, not all of them, not talking about you, sir. Most of them are very aggressive. And I mean, you can't tell them anything, even when they're wrong. They don't even want to admit when they're wrong. So I couldn't do that, but I don't want the other one that docile, that other one that you was talking about, because I don't want someone to say, yes, Glenda, no, Glenda, how do you want it, Glenda, huh? I don't think I could deal with that either. I need you to have cleaned it up, Glenda. I really don't, I don't want a submissive man, because I want you to have a backbone. I need for you to say, I want you to say, Glenda, I'm taking the car to go get the oil change. Glenda, I paid the bills. I want to know that I'm taken care of when I'm with you, but you also value my opinion when I speak, because there may be areas in the household or in our relationship that I am more knowledgeable of and more experienced on than you are, because we accent one another. It's not somebody, like a caveman and cavewoman thing. I know I don't want that too old for that, because we'll end up being divorced or breaking up real quick, because I'm like, no, I've been doing this by myself for a long time. You can't come in and tell me that, sir. But I that's why I was asking you, is there something in between?
Yeah, there's something. Yes, definitely there's something in between. In between. The guy in between. No, you got to realize there's something in between, because some people have been in situations where they're tired of, even guys sometimes get tired of leading. Sometimes guys say, hey, look, man, I'm just chilling for a little bit. I'm gonna let the old lady handle this.
Right.
So that happens.
And you need to know your role. There's a role for a woman in the household, and there's a role for a man. I don't want to always do the man role. I mean,
let me speak for the man side.
Go ahead.
For me, I consider myself alpha male. But now, first, let me say this before I go further. I've talked to a lot of ladies, and a lot of ladies now believing that men are soft. A lot of ladies say now men are soft, so men aren't as alpha males as they used to be. And a lot of women are telling me men are soft, and that's why the women now are taking charge, because they don't need no soft man. So they're taking charge. They're becoming alpha females because so many men are soft. And that's what I'm hearing now. But
So do they have the wrong man?
it could be, but I'm just telling you what I hear.
Okay.
Because for me, I'm an alpha male. I consider myself an alpha male, and I might be in the middle, but I consider myself an alpha male. But
Okay.
I want an alpha female. I want somebody to hold her own with me. I want somebody that's across from me that can speak her piece and speak her mind, and then we come to the middle and we talk about it and we discuss it as a family or as a couple, and we work through it together. Because
Okay.
I don't want to be the one that's always got to make decisions or always got to here's what we do, because I don't want a one-sided relationship.
Right.
That's like me being by myself. I want somebody that's going to give input and defend their decision. I want them to bring. I don't want to say we're going to do this or else. I want them to come on and say, here's why we're doing this, and give me some good feedback on why that's the direction we should go. Because if I have someone like that in my corner, we'll be a true power couple.
You would be.
Yeah. Now, if I have somebody that, what you want to do, baby? I don't care. Well, let's do this. All right. You know, if I have that going on, that'll be great. That'll be kind of sweet in the first month or two.
Right.
In the first part of the relationship. But after we been in a relationship for a while, if that's going to continue, I'm going to get tired of that.
I don't blame you, because I would too.
Let me hear from some of the other men that want to talk about it. What type of woman are you looking for? What type of woman are you looking for? Are you looking for alpha female or someone in the middle? Or are you looking for someone that's submissive?
Come on, Mr. Parker. I know you got something to say. Come on, Mr. Parker. Take yourself off mute, sir.
Mr. Parker, he ain't touching that thing. But that's and that means something, because to me it means something, because I have been with alpha female. I've been with a female that wasn't so sure of what her next decision was, and I've been in the middle ones. I think I operate better with the alpha females.
Okay.
That's for me. That's
now,
my
Andre said, did two alphas mean arguments?
Well, sometimes arguments are fun. Sometimes that level, the frequency of both of them matches. That frequency matches. Because if alpha people operate at a higher frequency than most, and some people need that in order to be motivated, in order to thrive. They thrive on it.
You and your girl gonna be sleeping in separate rooms almost every other night.
Then she gonna be somebody else's girl. Let's keep moving quickly with the quickness. All right, let's keep it moving, Glenda.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna talk about, let's see, what is that? Courageously opening up to love. Let's see. We have another illustration here. Emily has always been guarded in her relationships due to past betrayals. However, when she meets Mike, she decides to let down her walls and be vulnerable. Ooh. She takes a risk to love rooted in faith, trusting that opening up to Mike will lead to a deeper and more meaningful connection. Now, my opinion of that illustration, that's really taking a risk right there. Because in the first part of the sentence, it said that due to her past betrayal. Now, I know it's for some people that I know that have been betrayed in their relationship, it's hard for them to circle back. And when they start out in new relationships, I've seen and heard like they're not even looking for red flags. They're expecting the worst to happen because of what they have already been through. They've been betrayed, they've been hurt, they've been devastated, and it's hard to really, they haven't really been delivered from their past. But in this scenario, she decides to let her walls down and be vulnerable. Now, in my opinion, now, did she really fully let her walls down and become vulnerable to this new relationship so she can have a deeper connection with Mike? What do you guys think?
That's all. Sometimes a woman put up a wall so hard and so strong, and where she needs to be vulnerable, she's not. Where if a guy talks to her, he's bringing a conversation to her, and he's been authentic, he's talking his true self, and he needs her to, to relax and show who she really is. He needs to know everything about her, and so they can start forming something. And if she don't become vulnerable in that time, that's going to set the relationship back a long ways.
It will.
Because he won't know who she is. So being vulnerable is a beautiful thing. A lot of people think being vulnerable means being weak and being submissive. Being vulnerable means that you have faith in the fact that you're strong enough, and the relationship and who you have in front of you is pretty much the right person. And because of you being vulnerable, that's going to make the connection between you guys that much more powerful.
And it helps them to learn who you are, and why you feel or believe or act like you do.
Yes, yes.
With your expectations, and just laying it out. I come, this is the way that it is. I've been there and I've done that. So going forward, I'm not going through any of the stuff that I've gone through in the past. Now, if this is not what you want, you can keep it moving.
Right. Right.
And so it's like you got to look at the situation. But if you're never vulnerable, you'll never get in another relationship. But you just lay groundwork in the beginning. This is who I am. I don't have game. And so, in other words, if you think you have any thought of this going forward, then I just strongly suggest that maybe you do the same. But you come forth being vulnerable, laying it down. Like, I'm not dealing with the stuff from the past. I've already done that. I've wasted enough time with that.
Right.
And does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Being harsh.
Right.
Especially when you get in your 40s and 50s. When you get in your 40s and 50s, if you don't know what you want by now,
you never will.
I'm telling you, when you're 40s and 50s, the game should be over. And you should
be
be pretty much knowing
but there
what
are
you
some
want.
that's still playing. There's still some that's playing, Mr. Carpenter.
Yeah, you're right.
And then you got another generation, to me, that's sad because the men, they don't feel confident in who they are. They feel beat. They're coming to you and they feeling beat down. They want to be taken care of.
They do.
Yeah,
They
but
do.
That's what I'm having to deal with.
But now some of the stuff you got to realize in the African American community, there's a lot of mental health issues that don't get addressed. So sometimes you got to realize that's part of it too.
But you got to go to the doctor to get diagnosed before you can get help.
But if you don't think there's something wrong and you're not willing to go forward, how can you help that?
Yeah.
If you don't think there's a problem, you can't get.
Yeah, but
they don't even want to go to the doctor for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes, let alone, I think something is going on in my head. Stuff is not clicking. I mean, come on now, Mr. Carpenter. Can I take it? Leave that professor. Leave that out here.
If you are meeting a gentleman, he's in his 40s or 50s, and he tells you, oh, I'm scared of the doctors. I don't like hospitals, so I don't go. What?
Right.
Yeah.
To me. So I know right there. You better go get
he doesn't see that there's a problem, even if he doesn't even feel good. So if he can't have a genuine relationship, he doesn't see anything wrong that he's doing. He's gonna go from one relationship to the next relationship, making this woman, that woman, and the next woman miserable. But they're the problem and never him.
yeah.
Right, and it's the woman. You go do due diligence to be as healthy as you can. Because I don't be a burden, but of course, once you're married, it's to death do you part. But please do your. do your part.
Right.
And that's why it's important, all that stuff we talk about that runway before you and that person get serious in a relationship. That runway of trying to figure out who this person is and who this person is to you, and whether you can go forward or not in that relationship. That's very, very important. Because if you do your homework and you do that due diligence in that runway, that line up from the time you meet this person to the time you decide you and this person are going to seriously date, if you've done the right things there, you pretty much know who you have. Now, there are sometimes people slip under your radar, but if you've done your part in that pre relationship, you'll pretty much have it pretty much worked out. And that's when right now, when the young lady said, when she said that she's going to step out on faith and she's going to be vulnerable, I'm thinking that she's already done her pre-work. She's already talked to this guy a little bit and figured out who he was. And she feels safe that she wants to let her guard down and be vulnerable and let this person know who she really is, so that relationship can get closer and that connection, and they can move forward in their relationship.
Yeah.
That's the way it's designed.
Yeah, that's the illustration that I stated.
Yeah.
But sometimes it don't always work that way.
Yeah.
But good evening. This is Annette. I would like to say something with that. You know, as far as that vulnerability, I think it's cool. Yeah, she should be vulnerable. Everybody should. But that's when the alpha part of you should come out. You be vulnerable, but not stupid.
Right.
Because you have dealt with things before, and you understand, and you can see that sign when it begins to happen. And if you allow it to continue without saying something, that's stupidity. Then you get ready to repeat the same thing. But you gotta, if you're an alpha person or whatever you are, aggressive person, you need to step up and say, hey, wait a minute. I'm gonna tell you something. This is what I see, and this is what I've been through, and I'm not gonna deal with that anymore. If this is the way you're gonna carry it, then you need to move on, because I'm gonna move on. Right. So I think you can be vulnerable, and it's okay to expose yourself, but don't be stupid. Don't put your blinders on. Keep your blinders open so you can see just what's actually happening. I think that's what it should be.
Right, exactly. That's what we said earlier. Yep, exactly. Yeah. Very well.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Mr. Carpenter, do you have any additional comments, sir?
No, you guys did a little bit. If you let me, when the time comes to do the conclusion, I'll circle back around to all these.
Okay, not a problem. We're going to keep moving then.
Yeah, keep moving.
All right. Choosing love over fear. We have another illustration. David has always been afraid of commitment and getting hurt in relationships. When he meets Lisa, he realizes that he has strong feelings for her, but is scared to take the risk of loving her. Despite his fears, David chooses to confront his insecurities and take a leap of faith in love, believing that Lisa is worth the risk. Now, I will admit, I have been in a relationship where a gentleman, he felt like he was like at the bottom of the barrel. And it took forever for me to give him the opportunity. I was like, no, I'll never date you. I wouldn't take you on to my daddy. No. I said some other ugly things and he threw them up in my face every now and again. But after 5 years of just being friends and dealing with him on a regular basis as friends, some just popped in my head and said, let me just give him a try. You never know. You never know. Now, even though he thought that he would never have a chance with a girl like me, I gave him the opportunity 5 years later. Within 5 years, I learned a lot about him. I learned a lot about his past. I learned a lot about his family. And he learned a lot about me as well and my family as well. And, we did, I feel as if I took a chance on him and he took a chance on me. And, we're still together at this time, but at this, like that for Mr. Carpenter. But he did have a lot of insecurities because he didn't think that, I would give him the time of day because I used to say some awful things. I was like, no, I'll never date you. No. And I probably made some ugly faces too, like, but I did give him a chance, and it hasn't always been a walk in the park, and it hasn't been brimstones and fire either, but we're still together, and we do love each other a whole lot. It always can be better. I think it's that Usher song. He said, "We're not good, but we good." But I can relate to Mike. I'm sorry, I can relate to David in regards to that scenario, because the guy that I currently date, I think I was more so afraid of commitment, but he felt like he had a lot of insecurities because he didn't think he would meet my expectations because of I think, what you call it, Mr. Carpenter? You said a high value woman.
Yeah, high value woman is what we call it in the program.
Yeah, okay. All right, for the program's sake. So, but I can relate to that illustration on that level, because he did have some insecurities, but he did overcome them throughout the years that we've been together, because he wasn't a very bad guy, and he still isn't a bad guy. I mean, he does very well as of today. I mean, I am very happy that we are together. He's an amazing individual. He's like my second or third number one fan.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And that's sometimes you never know who it is. Yeah, God has a way of pricking your heart at times. So, and that when that happens, it happens for a reason. Because it's a lot of time women, more so women than men. Women would put a man in the friend zone in a heartbeat.
Sure enough, will.
He can shoot his best shot, and she'll say, okay, that's great, but we're friends. Nothing but friends.
Absolutely.
And some guys will hang around because they're waiting for that one day. They will hang around for that one day. When that day the sun shines on them and the moon lines up right, and it happens. And Glenda does testimony to that. So I guess it works.
Yes, it does. Some things are worth the wait.
So it works.
Yes. Did anyone have a story they wanted to share that was similar or somewhere in that ballpark?
No, I just wanted to say, sometimes we have to, well, most of the time, we have to extend some grace.
Some
grace to the person.
Yeah, after 5 years, I did extend a little bit of grace.
Mm-hmm.
Look like a lot of grace. It sounds like great grace to me.
We're going to have a little conversation after this. You are in rare form. You coming out of the woodwork and stuff.
Okay, we're coming to that. We've at that 40 minute mark, so we're gonna start reeling this in. What I'm gonna do a quick conclusion, and then we'll come back on that. If anybody got anything they want to say, they can piggyback on that. Tonight's topic was taking a risk to love, rooted in faith. And Glenda told us what that meant. That meant that you got courageous about trying to focus in on what that journey looked like for a Black woman dating a man, or vice versa, a woman date vice versa. That's what Glenda told us, that you have to be courageous. You got to step out. You got to believe it's going to work. And she also said that there's a lot of inherent insecure. I can't even talk now. I'm looking at Glenda smile. I can't even talk. There's a lot of uncertainties when you're looking to fall into a relationship with somebody or fall in love. But knowing what you know and going through some of the training and some of the stuff that we're teaching tonight, you can get more empowered, and that transformation can happen. We broke this topic down into 4 different topics. 4 different topics. And some of these topics sound like love songs more than they sound like topics. Because the first one we had was trusting in love despite uncertainties. And what this was saying, you don't know what that path will look like. When you dive in to fall in love with someone or try to put something together with your boo or your mate or however, you don't know what it looks like. You're stepping out on faith that journey is going to benefit you both, and you both going to profit from that union of you guys. And you have to do the work, though. Even though there's a risk involved, if you do the work, you can negotiate a lot of those risks just by doing the work. The second one was believing in the power of love, and that sounds like a love song than anything else. And that one is believing the fact that if you focus on the loving someone, that will actually transition or heal. It has healing powers that some of the hurt that you would have, you won't risk as much, because love has a power of conquering it all. Love can do some amazing things in the heart. And love is a heck of a force. Believe me, if you both love each other, it has a transforming power to it. And you can actually see this love between you and a person, how it blends and how you guys become a better union, and you bring value to each other. And that's what believing in the power of love. Love will change it. Love will make the relationship go better. Okay. Now, the next one was courageously opening up to love. And that's a good one. That one is when you have to be vulnerable. You got to realize you got to go out bold and brazen. I'm going to tell my truth. I'm going to let it all hang out. I'm going to let this person see who I really am. And I want them to show their real authentic self. And we're going to love on each other. We're going to make this relationship work. And we have faith that if I do that, he do that, or she do that, and he do that, it's going to work. And that's what courageously open up to love is all about. That's going out there with your heart, leading with your heart, and say, hey, don't damage me. Don't damage me. I'm coming out here. And that's how you fall in love. And you love both you and your partner fall in love that way. And the last, the fourth one, and I said 4 at the beginning. I'm gonna tell you about a fifth one, but Glenda covered the fifth one when she first started. Now, the next one is choosing love over fear. When you're thinking about loving somebody, you think, especially if you have some past hurt. If there's been some trauma in your life and you kissed a few turtles or frogs or toads or whatever y'all call them, and none of them worked out right, and all of them, when you kiss them, they still turn to a toad, they didn't turn to a prince or princess, then you know what I'm talking about. There's a fear factor there. So what you have to realize is that even though you've been hurt so many times before, you can put yourself back out there. And I think Annette said that. I think Annette gave us a scenario about putting yourself back out there. Right. When you put yourself back out there, even though you might have that fear, you got to overcome that fear if you want to be loved again. Now, some people choose to, hey, peace out. I've done it once. I had enough. I'm done. I'm cool. You stay over there, I stay over here. And that's your right. But if you want to still be loved and you feel there's a lot of love in you and you want to share with somebody, get out there. Get out there. Get out there, okay? And then the last one, what Glenda started first with, and it's our last one, is spiritual and religious, your religious belief and preferences. A lot of times people try to make within their religions. If you're Baptist, you want to relate a Baptist. If you're Catholic, you want to date a Catholic. You're Buddhist, you want to, if you're Muslim, you want to date a Muslim. That's not the case, but sometimes your heart you might be a Muslim, lean to a Baptist or a Christian. Love has a funny way of doing things. It does. And if you love someone that's in a different religion as yours, don't try to change their religion. Just love them where they are and tell them they love you. They love according to what their God or their creator says, and you love according to what your creator and your God says. And you guys just love on each other. Right. Because most religion, love is the key factor. It's all built, the majority of them are built around love. And it's a love of Christ, a love of the creator, a love of nature, whatever it is. Love is basically the foundation. And if it's rooted in love, it should work. And those are the things we talked about tonight. And we all have had stories. We all had things that we've been through in terms of love. And how you love. What are you looking for? And we talked about if you're high value or alpha female, are you looking for alpha male or dominant male? Are you looking for a more submissive male? Or Glenda said looking for somebody in between. But she settled for the guy at the bottom. But I'm just having fun, Glenda. I'm just having fun.
You had a lot of fun.
But sometimes now let's talk about friend zone. Sometimes when women put a man in a friend zone, they stay there. And they stay there. But sometimes you can circle back or go back, and you can pull one of them friends out, and you can dust them off, and they can work out for you. They can work out for you sometimes. You never know where you're gonna find love. You never know. Keep an open heart and continue to love. All right, anybody got anything they want to say before we start closing this out? Or any questions, any
I got
concerns?
something to say, sir.
Yes, Glenda.
You don't need to dust off no friends.
Leave them in the friend box. Leave them in the friend zone, huh?
That's right. Leave them up on the shelf with the dust. That's why they're in the friend zone.
No, they're in the friend zone because they said they answered the question wrong. That's why they're in the friend zone.
They did a lot of other stuff wrong too.
Oh, wow. Anybody that we haven't spoke to or had a chance and want to say something, want to speak the truth, or want to share something with the audience, because we have another good 5 minutes and we want to give you an opportunity to talk. Now, we normally have some questions to ask. We didn't ask them tonight, but we normally have some questions we run through. And I think one of the questions we have, did you ask us some, Glenda? Have you ever taken a significant risk for
Yes.
love based on faith or belief? I think you asked that one first, didn't you?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right, then Glenda took care of most of the questions. A lot of this stuff was designed before when you start dating. Most of these are dating questions.
Mhm.
Because when you date, how well you date determines how well the relationship going to work.
Mhm.
If you learn and see all the red flags in dating, the relationship going to be a lot better, or you give your relationship a better chance of being a great relationship. And no, we always said that, in dating, you got to know what your boundaries are. What's
Absolutely.
negotiable and what's not negotiable. What are hard stops and what aren't hard stops.
Right.
Because some things you can get by and some things you can't.
Right.
And you got to
agree.
know yourself first. And you have to know yourself, because if you don't know yourself, how are you going to try to learn me? Get your own house in order.
Right.
Because how can you pour from an empty cup? If you don't know who you are, get your own self in order first before you start looking at me. And so dating can be fun. Going out and finding your mate can be a lot of fun. Just imagine a Sunday afternoon, you and your boo sitting across from each other in a nice restaurant, and you guys are there having a great meal, and the conversation is beautiful. And you, as he or she talk, you look in their mouth, and you can just picture all the Sundays going forward that you and them are in your house having a great relationship. These are the things this is the reason why we reset the healthy relationship, because we want you to enjoy love. We want you to get out there and have fun. All right? Because the Surgeon General said one of the biggest epidemics in America right now is widespread loneliness. And you don't have to be lonely today in this time, because there's so many people out there that's looking for love. Everybody has a right to be loved. Everybody
You gotta watch their selection process, sir.
Yep, that they call that the picker. The picker ain't right. That selection process. All right, Glenda, we're gonna turn it off. Anything you want to say before we go out of here?
No, we did. I think you did a pretty good job at summing up everything.
Okay, everybody, we appreciate you for being part of the audience. You are tremendous. We love you. We wouldn't do this unless you were here. And since you're here, you give us a motivation to continue on. See you next week, same place, same time. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye. Good night. Good night.
Good night.